The fallout continues over new examples of political bias, one after another, coming from the Department of Justice, the FBI, and from Robert Mueller's merry band of Democratic donors. Now, Fox News has obtained some of the text messages between that FBI agent, you know, the one that's involved in everything, Peter Strzok, and his FBI lawyer girlfriend, Lisa Page. They are full of all kinds of examples of Trump bashing. We're going to show you the actual messages in detail in a minute. But first, as you can imagine, the massive conflicts of interest, the political prejudice now being exposed in America's justice system has Republican lawmakers finally waking up and demanding answers. GOP congressmen, they wasted little time today in questioning the Deputy Attorney General, the guy that appointed Mueller, Rod Rosenstein, on Capitol Hill earlier today. This is a classic, epic. Take a look.
We are now beginning to better understand the magnitude of this insider bias on Mr. Mueller's team. First, we have FBI agent Peter Strzok and FBI lawyer Lisa Page exchanging communications showing extreme bias against President Trump.
What happens when people who are supposed to cure the conflict of interest have even greater conflicts of interest than those they replace? That's not a rhetorical question. You nor I nor anyone else would ever sit Peter Strzok on a jury. We wouldn't have him objectively, dispassionately investigate anything, knowing what we know now. Why didn't we know it ahead of time?
My question to you is, how with a straight face can you say that this group of Democrat partisans are unbiased and will give President Trump a fair shake?
This is unbelievable. And I'm here to tell you, Mr. Rosenstein, I think the public trust in this whole thing is gone. So it seems to me you got two things you can do. You're the guy in charge. You're the guy who picked Mueller. You're the guy who wrote the memo saying why he needed to fire Comey. You're the guy in charge. You could disband the Mueller special prosecutor, and you can do what we've all called for. Appoint a second special counsel to look into this, to look into Peter Strzok, Bruce Orr, everything else we've learned in the last several weeks.
All this sound familiar? It should. You've heard it here first. We've been doing this now for months. Now, despite today's grilling, Rosenstein, he remains defiant and actually defending Mueller and his team of Clinton lovers and Trump haters. Pretty unbelievable. Watch this.
I think it's important to recognize that when we talk about political affiliation, that all demonstrates political affiliation. The issue of bias is something different. I've discussed this with Director Mueller, and he and I collectively have a lot of experience managing offices in the Department of Justice. We recognize we have employees with political opinions, and it's our responsibility to make sure those opinions do not influence their actions. Pardon me. And so I believe that Director Mueller understands that, and that he is running that office appropriately, recognizing that people have political views, but ensuring that those views are not in any way a factor in how they conduct themselves. I don't know exactly what the president meant by that, Congressman. The special counsel's investigation is not a witch hunt.
There's one problem. There's only one opinion. It's pro-Hillary, anti-Trump. There's a mountain of evidence now showing this bias among Mueller's investigators, yet Rosenstein pretending like he's the only person in America that doesn't see it. See no evil, hear no evil. What's happening? This is a direct threat to the rule of law in this country. Rosenstein is aiding and abetting that threat. Now, if he had any sort of moral compass, he would shut down Mueller's corrupt witch hunt immediately. Why he doesn't see it is beyond anything I could ever think about. Now, as for Mueller's team of corrupt and biased Democratic donors, here's a quick overview of what we know about them. They have given piles of cash, over 50 grand in total, to Democrats, including Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. By the way, only one of them donated to a Republican. None of them gave any money to Donald Trump, and that's just the start of it. One of Mueller's top investigators, Jeannie Ray, she worked closely with Eric Holder, remember him, and represented the Clinton Foundation during the 2015 racketeering case. If I wrote a novel or a movie, you wouldn't believe it. And then there's Mueller's top prosecutor. Yep, there's his guy, Andrew Weissman. He oversaw that highly controversial obstruction of justice case. Remember Arthur Anderson, the accounting firm, Enron? It destroyed the company. They were put out of business. Tens of thousands of people lost their jobs. 2005, the Supreme Court overturned Weissman's conviction 9-0. a unanimous ruling. And as part of the Enron investigation, Weissman also sent 4 Merrill Lynch executives to jail. Big problem. That conviction was also overturned by the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. And Weissman, well, he's been accused of doing just about anything to secure a conviction. Let's see, withholding exculpatory evidence and intimidating witnesses, just among the few charges. And last week, Judicial Watch released an email where Weissman told the former acting attorney general, Sally Yates, how proud he was of her after Yates defied a direct order from her boss, the President of the United States, and refused to defend the travel ban. Wall Street Journal is reporting that Weissman attended Hillary Clinton's election night party. Wow. Now, finally, there's the Trump-hating, Clinton-loving FBI agent Peter Strzok. He's involved in everything. Now, Fox News has obtained exclusively the anti-Trump, pro-Clinton text messages between Strzok and his girlfriend, Lisa Page, also someone that worked for Mueller. Before we show you the text messages, here's the backstory. Now, this guy Strzok used to be a top counterintelligence official before being demoted and actually signed the document that started the entire Russia-Trump so-called investigation. Strzok's team was assigned to handle the anti-Trump dossier when it was first given to the FBI. Now, get this. He also oversaw the interview of former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, and he played a major role in the Clinton email investigation, sat in on Hillary's FBI interview, was also at the interviews of Clinton's top aides, Uma Abedin, Cheryl Mills, and this is the most egregious piece of information we have about Strzok. He's the guy. He's the one that changed. Remember the exoneration before investigation, James Comey? Well, it was James Comey and Peter Strzok. He changed the terminology from grossly negligent to extreme carelessness, which took and let Hillary off the hook in that particular case. Now, think about it. The fix was in, and Strzok is at the center of just about everything. This is the backstory, and that's why these text messages are so disturbing. Let's start. Let's look at this exchange. The date, March 4th, 2016. Page, the girlfriend, writes, God, Trump is a loathsome human. Strzok responds, yet he may win, and good for Hillary. And Page says it is. And then Strzok asks, would he be a worse president than Cruz? Page follows up, Trump? Yeah, I think so. And then Strzok replies, oh, I'm not sure. And then adds, oh, my God, he's an idiot. Page adds, he's awful. Strzok then says, America will get what the voting public deserves. That's you. And Page finishes with, that's what I'm afraid of. Later the same day, Strzok writes, God, Hillary should win 100 million to 0. Page says, I know. Well, that conversation continues when Page says, what? Poor Kasich. He's the only sensible man up there. Strzok follows up with, he was pretty much calling for the death of Snowden. I'm a single issue voter. Espionage machine party. And then Strzok adds, exactly regarding Kasich, and he has 0 appeal. Then in June, Strzok writes, they fully deserve to go and demonstrate the absolute bigoted nonsense of Donald Trump. And he adds, truly. Later that month, Page texts, really, really like Joe Biden. Strzok responds by saying, opened on Trump? If Hillary did, 5 field offices would. Wow, rule of law. In July, Page texts, and wow, Donald Trump is an enormous, expletive. I can say it, but children may be watching. And in August, Page writes, Jesus, you should read this, and Trump should go bleep himself. And Strzok responds, God, that's a great article. Thanks for sharing, and bleep Trump. Now, Strzok even bashed Trump supporters, writing, quote, just went to a Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support. And Page, his girlfriend, replies, out to lunch with, redacted, and we both hate everyone and everything. And then she adds, just riffing on the hot mess that is our country. Strzok ends by saying, yeah, it's scary, really down here. Now, in October, Strzok sends this message. I am riled up. Trump is a bleeping idiot, is unable to provide a coherent answer. Strzok later texts, I can't pull away. What the blank happened to our country? And this particular message, pay close attention to. It's getting attention from other people as well. It's raising all kinds of important questions that we need answers to. Now, in August of 2016, Strzok texted, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected, meaning Trump. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. Now, Fox News, we haven't confirmed that Andy, that text would be Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. And remember, McCabe's wife took $700 grand in donations from Democrats during a 2015 Virginia State Senate run. By the way, Terry McAuliffe up to his eyeballs there. There's also this text exchange. We edited out the middle part, which was a web link. Page writes, and maybe you meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace. And Strzok says, thanks. It's absolutely true that we're both very fortunate. And of course, I'll try and approach it that way. I just know it will be tough at times. I can protect our country at many levels. Not sure if that helps. What is the insurance policy? And why is Andy, who we think is Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI director, why is he involved in this? Interestingly, the Wall Street Journal reporting that the meeting with McCabe took place just as the FBI launched its counterintelligence probe into possible Trump-Russia connections. You can't write a novel like this. Now, the Journal also notes that July is when Christopher Steele briefed the FBI about the fake news dossier. And here's another huge question. How were these text messages discovered? And after reading all those messages, how can Rod Rosenstein honestly go before Congress today and conclude that special counsel is fair and unbiased? And then there's this new information, Fusion GPS. They have confirmed that Nellie Orr, the wife of the recently demoted DOJ official Bruce Orr, did in fact work for Fusion GPS. And Fusion GPS also confirmed that Nellie Orr worked on Trump opposition research. And we found out last week that Bruce Orr met with the former British spy that paid for the Russian lies to influence the election, that Steele is the person who put together the fake news anti-Trump Russian dossier with phony information. Well, we know Bruce Orr also met with Glenn Simpson. He's the co-founder of Fusion GPS after the election. And guess what? Orr's office was only 4 doors down from Rosenstein's. Wow. Everything that we've just explained shows that there are inexcusable conflicts of interest, that there are clear abusive biases at the DOJ and the FBI and Robert Mueller's team. Now, to be clear, this has nothing to do with rank and file, hardworking law enforcement agents. This is about the select few people at the top that think that they're above the law, that think that they know better than you. So we have to ask tonight, what in God's name is Robert Mueller doing? It's one giant, huge, massive web of corruption, and it's all aimed at taking down a duly elected president of the United States. What he is doing is immoral, it is unethical, and probably at some point, we're going to find real illegal activity. And welcome back to Hannity here now with reaction to my opening monologue on Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, his testimony today on Capitol Hill, and the corruption that is within Mueller's special counsel, author of the book, Trumped Up, How Criminalization of Political Differences Endangers Democracy. Harvard Law School professor Alan Dershowitz is back with us. First, Professor, let me get your reaction to the hearing, and more particularly to this email exchange. Mm-hmm. And the depth in terms of this one guy, Strzok, taps into almost everything we have discussed for a year. Mm-hmm. Does the FBI not have any other employees? Mm-hmm. Because it seems like he's it.
Well, first of all, I want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah and in 12 days a Merry Christmas.
Day 2 today. Yes, sir.
And let me give you some legal context to this, I think. This is a terrible problem. It's a very serious problem. It's a problem not only of perception of bias, but the reality of bias here. And so any defendant who gets indicted by the Mueller group is going to be able to challenge their indictment in court. And here's the way Mueller is going to defend it. He's going to say, look, our statutes prohibit me from considering political affiliation in hiring people. I just hired the best people. They all happen to be Democrats who supported Clinton. The response to that is going to be, well, maybe not political affiliation, but bias within a political affiliation. These folks who wrote these emails, they should have been sensible enough to recuse themselves immediately. They have a strong bias, just like Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has expressed a very strong bias against President Trump, and I hope she will recuse herself in any case involving the president directly. So Should there be a special counsel appointed? No, because I don't see evidence of crimes. But I think what Mueller should do is appoint an ethics consultant, somebody like a former Attorney General, Mike Mukasey, a former head of the FBI, Louis Freeh, to come in and do a complete evaluation of everybody on his staff. Look at every email.
Isn't that pathetic that he needs it? To me, this is so transparent, the team that he's put together. You know Andrew Weissman. You've been you know this guy. He didn't belong on that team. You know, how many overturns are there? 9-0. You've argued before the Supreme Court.
Yep. It's a very good question. Andrew Weissman has a reputation of being an excellent, very tough, somewhat zealous lawyer. I didn't know anything about his political affiliation. I actually had a case against him not so long ago. He's very, very good. He never should have sent that email congratulating Sally Yates. Sally Yates should not have been congratulated. Well, I wrote an op-ed piece saying when you're the acting Attorney General of the United States, you enforce the law.
How about withholding exculpatory evidence? How about in other cases what could only be deemed as beyond aggressive tactics to get convictions?
I agree with you. As a civil liberties lawyer, I am appalled when prosecutors withhold exculpatory evidence, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. We have to defend the civil liberties of all Americans, starting with the president. And there are so many partisans out there who say, all right, we're civil libertarians, but we got to get rid of this president, so let civil liberties be put aside. And that's what some of these emails suggest, that they were prepared to do anything to get rid of this president, and that's a bias.
What about this one particular text message? And we only have less than 400. There are over 10,000. Can't wait for the rest of them. But I want to believe the path that you threw out for consideration in Andy's office. I believe they're talking about McCabe. Personally, it's a guess. I haven't confirmed it. That there's no way Trump gets elected if we follow that path, is what they're saying. I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. That's chilling to me, that email.
It is, and I think there has to be an investigation of that, but I don't want criminal investigations. We should start with ethics investigations, congressional investigations. I always suggested a nonpartisan commission like the 9/11 Commission. But when you start with the special counsel, you're immediately saying there must be crime here. And I think that's wrong on both sides. So I'm opposed to the Republicans' call for a special counsel, just as I was opposed for the appointment of Mueller as a special counsel. We have to get the criminalization out of our system and start looking simply to learn the truth. And we have to find out everything we can about any bias of anybody in the Mueller probe. Otherwise, it's simply not going to have credibility, and it's going to be subject to challenge by any criminal defendant who was indicted by this special counsel.
All right, Professor. Love your keen intellect, and people want to have some fun following you on Twitter against Lawrence Tribe. It's a bit of an intellectual
As you know,
trip.
I challenged him to a debate, and he said, well, maybe in May. Well, you know, seize the day. Let's have a debate now.
I will tell you, Professor, I will give you 2 seats here on my set. Great. And it will be an open debate, and I'll stay out of it. How's that? Full hour.
I accept.
One-on-one. You got it.
This is a Fox News alert. Special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation may be wrapping up. That's according to White House attorney Ty Cobb. And we're getting new details tonight on 10,000 text messages between FBI agent Peter Strzok, who was taken off the Mueller investigation, and Strzok's alleged mistress, an FBI lawyer named Lisa Page. Kristen Fisher is here following the late-breaking developments as we got these tonight, pouring through and finding out exactly what these two were talking about.
Yeah, Shannon, Fox News has just obtained those 10,000 text messages that you were talking about between Strzok and Page. And this is a big deal because these are the anti-Trump text messages that led special counsel Robert Mueller to remove Strzok from the Russia investigation, though he's since been relocated within the FBI. Now, 10,000, it's a big number. We're still going through them. But here's what's jumped out at us so far. Last March, so right in the middle of the campaign, Page said, God, Trump is a loathsome human. Strzok replied, yet he may win. He then said, would he be a worse president than Cruz? Page replied, Trump? Yes, I think so, to which Strzok said, I'm not sure. OMG, he's an idiot. Now, later that same day, Strzok said, God, Hillary should win 100 million to 0. And about a month later, Page texted him, so look, you say we text on that phone when we talk about Hillary because it can't be traced. So Page appears to be acknowledging they know they're doing something that shouldn't be done, or at the very least, something that they don't want traced. Now remember, all of these texts were taking place during the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton's emails, and Strzok was an integral part of that investigation. He's the one credited with changing the wording in then FBI Director James Comey's assessment from grossly negligent to extremely careless. And then after Trump secures the nomination, and it's a little unclear exactly what Page is referring to here, she says, quote, "Maybe you're meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace." Strzok replies, "Thanks. It's absolutely true that we're both very fortunate, and of course, I'll try and approach it that way. I just know it'll be tough at times. I can protect our country at many levels. Not sure if that helps." Now, even though both Strzok and Page are no longer in the special counsel's office, all of this just feeds into the narrative and feeds into the accusations from many Republicans that Mueller's probe is tainted because people on his team have an anti-Trump bias. Here's one of President Trump's personal attorneys, Jay Sekulow, just tonight.
And at the end of the day, you have to say, how is this allowed to continue? Why is this not? Why are these people not terminated? And you know what the answer to that is? And people don't like when you say it, but it is the deep state. It's the bureaucrats.
Now, another White House attorney, Ty Cobb, said tonight that Mueller's team is done interviewing White House officials. He also said that he believes the special counsel's investigation is going to be wrapped up soon. We're talking weeks, maybe months, but Democrats have come out and said that that's either complete fiction or wishful thinking. So, Shannon, believe what you will on that one.
Yeah, it's a very big story to be coming out tonight. The same night we have the election, but we're going to continue to pour through these, and
they're still coming in, so we have a lot to go through.
There is a lot. When you have 10,000 to read, you know, it takes a little time. But we thank you for pouring through.
Thanks.
Thank you. More than 300 text messages from a demoted FBI agent were the talk of the town today in those testy Capitol Hill hearings with Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. The agent, Peter Strzok, who was part of the Mueller special counsel team, called the president an idiot, among much other worse things. Here's how Rosenstein addressed the situation today.
The issue of bias is something different. I've discussed this with Director Mueller, and we recognize we have employees with political opinions, and it's our responsibility to make sure those opinions do not influence their actions. I believe that Director Mueller understands that, and that he is running that office appropriately, recognizing that people have political views, but ensuring that those views are not in any way a factor in how they conduct themselves in office.
Republican Congressman from Florida, Matt Gaetz, joins us now. All right, are you buying what he's selling today?
Oh, well, absolutely not. You would think from Mr. Rosenstein's testimony that these are people just saying, well, I like Hillary Clinton or I dislike Donald Trump. The entire reason that we have a special counsel process is to escape from conflicts of interest. But here we seem to have dove in head first into like an orgy of conflicts of interest right in Mueller's team. You've got two key relationships here. You've got Mr. Strzok and his mistress who continue to say these terrible things, not only about the president, but about their plans to, in fact, come in and save the country and be the insurance policy. So these are action items, Shannon, not just beliefs.
Do you give Mueller credit, though, when those were brought to his attention by the Inspector General, that he dismissed Strzok?
Yeah, but it wasn't Mueller that found him. Like, he had to basically get busted by his own Inspector General before this happened. Look, we should have had a process in place to vet the people on the Mueller team. Now, it's either one of two things. You got a circumstance where Mueller was expressly bringing people onto his team as a consequence of his bias, or he didn't care about the bias. But in either circumstance, you shouldn't have, like, the Never Trump group being the group that's investigating the president.
Okay, you're not a fan of this special counsel. Do you think there should be a second special counsel now to look into these allegations, as many other people are saying? They need to look at the FBI, the DOJ.
Of course, all Americans want to have confidence in the Department of Justice and the FBI, and right now that confidence is shattered because they've been turned into partisan political operations where people are able to go and persecute the President of the United States, with information that is totally dubious. And I think to restore that, we've got to have more transparency, checks and balances, and stronger reporting to the Congress. It is really insulting to be a member of Congress and have the Deputy Attorney General not answer basic questions about whether taxpayer money was used to buy a dossier to undermine the president.
Okay, to this point about a secondary special counsel, this is what Senator Blumenthal, of course a Democrat on the other side of Capitol Hill, tweeted apparently today. He said, Rosenstein stood strong against disgraceful attacks by GOP congressmen on Mueller inquiry today, a shameful effort to distract and sabotage the investigation with deceptive calls for second special counsel?
Look, we have an oversight responsibility where if things aren't working right at the FBI or Department of Justice, we are the elected representatives of the people to ensure that you've got a fair process for all Americans. The evidence is overwhelming. The currently deputy director of the FBI wrote emails saying that Hillary Clinton was going to be treated special. At the same time, you've got the folks investigating the president, like Mr. Strzok, saying that he could smell the Trump voters at Walmart and that this election should have been 100 million to 0 and that there's no reasonable person that could have ever voted for Donald Trump. This is bias, but it's leading to action that is totally illegitimate, and we have a responsibility to get to the bottom of it.
Do you get a second special counsel on that point?
We absolutely should. Look, I mean, right now...
Do you think you will, though?
Well, that depends on the Attorney General. We've called on the Attorney General to step up and do his job or step aside. Right now, frankly, we see Rosenstein having more influence at the Department of Justice than our own Attorney General, and I think he could be strong right now, appoint a second special counsel, and restore confidence in these agencies that are absolutely essential to the functioning of our government and our society.
All right, politics aside, you and I do agree on college football. Go Noles.
Absolutely. Go Noles. And super excited about Willie Taggart.
Me too. All right. We agree on the coach. Good to see you, Congressman.
Good to see you.